Hello students, welcome to another class of computer applications. So today we are going to learn about the search engines and then we will talk about the protocols, FTP and remote protocols, and then we will talk about the web services. So let's start with search engine. World Wide Web is a collection of billions of web pages linked with each other, containing information on almost every topic. The size of this information is increasing day by day, as every day new pages are getting added to this virtual hypertext network. So, on such a large pool of information, it is impossible to locate the specific required information. In these situations, we need a program which can help us to quickly locate the required information. So, search engines are the server resident programs that resides on server and which helps the user on a client machine to locate the particular web pages needed with the help of search keywords. Search keyword means the things that we are typing on a search bar. Those are known as search keyword. So we can say that these search engines maintain a directory or index of web pages which is used to locate the pages containing the required information. So some of the popular search engine programs are Google search engine, Yahoo, Bing, MSN, AltVista, Lycos, Infoseek, Hotboot. So these are the names of some of the search engines, or you can see the images also here. Okay, now let us talk about the search engine working. Okay, have you ever thought how a search engine provides so many matching results in a predefined order? Okay, so let us perform a simple Google search and understand this concept of working of search engine. For example, let us search something about our country India. Type India in the search bar and press enter key. You will find a new screen. So here in the diagram you can see we have typed that query. Query means we have written the India word, and then this query will go to the Google web server. Okay, user will do the query and that query will go to the search engine. The web server sends the query to the index server. There are different types of servers, so it will send that query to the index server. The content inside the index server is similar to the index in the back of book. It is you can see in book where we are having index pages. So similarly on server also, index server is having that type of index. It tells which page contains the words that matches any particular query. Then that query request is passed to the document server. The query travels to the document server, which actually retrieve the stored document. That means from index we have seen the page number, and then we have to go to that particular page to open that particular topic. So similarly here the index server will check the keywords, and then it will transfer or request to that particular document server, and the search results are returned to the user in a fraction of a second. So this whole process will be executed in very less time. Okay, so this is the working of that particular search engine. Now search engine have three components. First is spider, that are programs, and then database or index of search engine, and then the searching algorithm, the process of searching things. Okay, so spider, this is a program which scans the web servers and connect it to the internet to create indexes of the URLs that we are sending or links. Okay, it compiles the list of URL and the keywords associated with these. A spider is also known as web crawler because it works in a crawling manner, and boot also it is it is also called bot and agent or robot. Okay, next type of component is database or index. Whatever we are providing, it should be stored at some place. So database or index keeps the collected URL, and keyword is broken up by indexing software to create a database of related keywords and resources. Okay, next component is search algorithm. A search algorithm performs searches in its database and returns the web pages URL containing those particular keywords provided by the user. So this is about the components of this search engine. Okay. Next topic is there are some tips that you have to implement during search. So a few tips are given here. So for efficient searching, you have to use double quotes. Okay, when you enter multiple keywords in search box, your search engine create a list of web pages containing those particular words. So if you want a particular exact result, then you have to put that searching thing in double quotes. For example, here if we want to type about information practices or information technology, then we will write this thing in double quote. Okay. Next tip is avoid question marks, or don't write the things in question marks. If you will type something in a question form, then it will search individual word as a query. Okay, so avoid questions. In that case, it will treat questions as separate word to find the search result. Third point is case sensitive search. If you will type the keyword in small letters, your search will not be case sensitive. That means if you are typing in small letter, that is okay. And if you want to search something like USA and you are writing in small letters, then it will not give you that proper result. So you have to type in capital letter USA. So capital letters keywords are case sensitive. Okay. Next is use of symbol plus or minus. If you want to include something in your search, then you can use the plus symbol, and if you want to exclude something from your search, then you can use the minus symbol. So the plus symbols before the keyword that must be searched. So put the most important terms in your search first. Example, if you're looking for information on president and USA, both the things you want, then you can write like this: plus president plus USA. So that the pages that have both the words will be shown to you in the form of list. And minus symbol, if you want to search for the president that should not include Pakistan president, then you have to enter like plus president minus Pakistan, so that the page that have president will be on the list, excluding the Pakistan word out of it. So this plus and minus can be used for effective search. Next is using wildcards. Some particular characters we can use for searching. So wildcards are of two types. One is question mark and one is asterisk symbol. So using these search can be performed with different combinations of word. For example, if in a keyword you have forgotten one single character, then you can use this question mark in place of that. It will search according to that. And if you want to show the present any number of characters, if you are just remembering the starting word and remaining things you've just forgot, you can use asterisk. It will search all the particular results related to that. For example, if we know only the word and after that we don't know, so we can put star asterisk there, and then we can search. So it will give you the list of web pages that contains the, there and theirs. Okay, so this way we can search with the help of wildcards. Okay, so next is finding people on internet. So some searching websites helps people in locating an individual email address, contact, locations, date of birth. One does not have access to direct phone directory, so we can search people with the help of particular sites. So searching people on www.people.com is given here. You have to first open the browser and then you have to type the address bar of, in the URL you have to type the website of people.com, and after that you have to press enter key, and on the home page just type the email ID or name of that person. Then the information related to that particular person will be shown to you on the search button. So various types of websites are there that can be used for searching people. So here you can see the examples: truepeoplesearch.com, findpeoplesearch.com, ppu.com, classmates.com, ancestry.com, and address.com. So these are the sites that provides you help in finding people on internet. Now let us talk about the FTP and remote login protocols. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. So this we have seen in the previous video also. These are the protocols that are used for file transfer and remote logging, and mail protocol is SMTP and POP3. So one by one we will talk about them. So let's start with the file transfer protocol. It is commonly used protocol for exchanging files over any network that support TCP/IP protocol. So this FTP also works on TCP/IP. File transfer protocol is an internet feature used to transfer files between file transfer protocol server and the file transfer protocol client. I have already explained you in the second class about the client server architecture. So this FTP works on FTP client and FTP server. Servers are the computers where resources are residing. Okay, so FTP server, it is a computer that run FTP server software. FTP server listens on the network for connection request from the other computer, and client FTP client is a computer that is running FTP client software. An FTP client computer initiates a connection to the server, that means request for the resource. Once connected, the customer can do number of manipulations operations such as uploading files to the server, downloading files from the server, renaming or deleting file on the server, and so on. So you can think FTP as whenever we are uploading some file, so for that we need a protocol that we want our file to be uploaded on the FTP server. So for that one protocol is required, and if you want to download something, then you have to need a protocol that is also FTP protocol. So we are getting a file from server to our system, so that is known as downloading thing. So for uploading and downloading, FTP protocol is required. And this, for accessing internet, we are using TCP/IP protocol. So this FTP works with the TCP/IP protocol, and TCP/IP is the main protocol that is used for communication over internet or intranets. Okay, so see here in the diagram, we are the user, so we interact with the client machine, and client machine is having two programs. One is control process and the second is data transfer process. So this hard disk is our hard disk, computer hard disk. So we are transferring our data to the server or from server to client. So for that control process, our control process and the server control process, they make a connection, and data transfer process also, they are making connection with each other. And like this we can send files to the server and we can download the files from the server. So this is the connection establishment diagram. So this is very important diagram, you can use it while explaining file transfer protocol. Okay, so TCP/IP working is also explained here. Okay, at the sender side, that is client side, or at the server side, both sides FTP is used. Okay, next type of protocol is SSH. SSH is Secure Socket Shell Protocol. Is a telnet like protocol. Telnet is also used for remote login. We will study that also. So it is in functionality it is like that, but it is secure protocol as compared to telnet. SSH is also a protocol for remote logging into a machine via shell. That means you don't worry about this. This is just a protocol that is secure. Just remember this thing. Okay, for a remote access also. This SSH protocol ensure the security cell using the other protocols like secure copy protocol or secure file transfer protocol. So here in the diagram you can see it is just first doing the authentication of the server and provide the identity to the client. Network connection is there, key means it is secure, so user authentication is done in here. So you can say this SSH protocol, data protection is integral part of any network system. So in client server architecture, SSH protocol is also known as secure socket shell protocol. It is used for securing data over the unsecured network. It establishes a secure connection between the client and the host through remote commands execution for transferring data over the network. So this is why it is important, because before transferring data between the client and the host, the SSH calls upon the SFTP, that is secure file transfer protocol, and then authentication, server and machine client authentication is done. Once the authentication process gets over, the SFTP protocols works on the set of secure channels between the client and the host computer by establishing a secure connection. So SFTP protects the integrity, that means the reliability of the information using encryption and cryptographic hash functional technology. Encryption means security, that transferring information in some other form, not the original way, by transforming it. Okay, so this is about SSH. Next protocol is SCP. SCP is Secure Copy Protocol. In a network, protocols play a significant role in transferring data and in maintaining the confidentiality of a data. So there are two protocols that allow the copy files between two server or two connected machines over the internet. So this SCP is secure copy is one of such protocol, and this protocol allow you to transmit files from one machine to another over the internet with the encrypted benefit of SSH. So these all protocols work hand in hand. All the protocols will work together or simultaneously, you can say. So most SSH clients include SCP capability. It offers own set of commands or options to connect with the machines. So this SCP along with SSH ensures the authenticity and confidentiality of a data over unsecured network. So you can say this is also providing the authentication or security of the data over unsecured network. Okay, next type of protocol is SFTP, that is Secure File Transfer Protocol. This Secure File Transfer Protocol requires the client user must be authenticated by the server, that is checked by the server, and the data transfer must take place over a secure channel, that is SSH. All the data is encrypted, that is transformed in a different form before sending across the network, and the SFTP encrypts both commands and data, providing efficient protection against the security. So you just consider it like this: there are two ends, one is sender side and one is receiver side. So sender side, we are doing the encryption thing. Encryption means transforming information in a secret form, and then we will transfer that information over the channel so that nobody can check or the original information. And at the receiver side, decryption is done, that is the things that we have changed in a secured form that can be extracted in a original form. Okay, so that is about SFTP. Next topic is Telnet. Telnet is Internet Utility Protocol that allows you to log on to remote computer system. You can think about this Telnet as, suppose you are facing some problem in your laptop and you want a solution from me. So what we can do is, I will tell you some software and you will allow permission to that software ID or something. So so that I can get a control on your laptop and I can fix your laptop problem. So that can be done with the help of a protocol, that is Telnet. So TeamViewer is a software that is providing this facility so that I can handle your laptop from my place by just using that software. Okay, so for connecting remote computers, we can use Telnet. Okay, a Telnet programs give you a character-based terminal window on another system. You can get login prompt onto that system. If you are permitted access, you can work on that system just as you would if you were sitting next to it. Okay, so here you can see how we can connect via Telnet. Using Telnet client software on your computer makes a connection to the Telnet server over internet. Once your Telnet client establishes a connection to a remote host, your clients become a virtual machine and allowing you to communicate with the remote host on your computer. Now you can type Telnet based access commands. We can write commands, okay, and which are then sent to the remote Telnet server, and the Telnet server acts accordingly to the commands. So here you can see the image. We are doing this, we are doing the remote access on Windows 7. For that, first you have to open the control panel. After opening control panel, you have to select the program folder, and in program folder a window will appear like this, and on that window you have to check the turn Windows feature on and off option, that is with yellow color on the screen. So after doing that, you have to select the Telnet client. And after selecting the Telnet client option, window feature box, you have to click on OK, and then the Telnet window search bar, and then Telnet option. The command prompt screen will open, and on the command prompt screen we can write the commands for giving the access right to the remote server like this. a telnet connection can be set up between remote server and the client machine. Okay. Next type of protocol is SMTP, that is used in mails, and POP. This is also used in mail. So this SMTP will be used at the sender side, and this POP is used at the receiver end. Okay, so SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and it is most common protocol for transferring emails between two or more servers. It generally sends the message from a client machine to a mail server. Okay, apart from transferring mail, SMTP also provide notification regarding the incoming mails. Okay, so it works on the sender side, and outgoing mails checked by the POP. So Post Office Protocol version 3 is another commonly used email protocol. It helps to retrieve emails from remote web servers using a local client, and POP server have a unique address, that is post office, as post office are having unique address. So POP this POP mail server is also having a unique address provided by the email service provider, and it always works as receiver side. Okay, so this is all about the protocols. Now let's talk about the internet services classification, that is web services. So first we will talk about the chat service. Chatting is an online communication facilities of internet which allows to send text or voice messages in real time. So here on WhatsApp also I'm using a chatting system. Okay, in this messages are exchanged instantly between the user who are connected on the internet, that is the messages are delivered instantly and flashed on the receiver screen. To use this service, user has to log on to a website which provide the chat facilities, or you should have a application related to chats like rediff.com, indiatimes.com, chatweb.net, talkcity.com, Google Talk, whatsapp.com, hangouts, Skype, IMO, etc. So these are the examples of chatting websites. Okay, some of these chat servers also support the audio and video sharing facility. You all know this thing. In WhatsApp we can share audio and videos also. Chat room is an online place where a group of people can get together and chat on a particular subject. So there are two types of chat, two or three types of chats. So one is IM, that is instant messaging. So directly we can message from one place to another, one person to another person in a private chat, or we can use a group also. Like online chat, instant messages offer two-way message exchange in real time. The only difference between instant messaging and online chat is that in instant messaging the communication takes place between the known users, and it includes only those persons whom the user has invited, whereas online chat could happen between unknown users also. Some of the examples of instant messaging services is Hangouts, Google Hangouts, or Windows Live Messenger, etc. Or you can say WhatsApp is also an example of instant messaging. Another type is IRC, that is Internet Relay Chat. This is also allows people to communicate with each other in real time through text messages, etc. IRC is not limited to just two participants. It can be used mainly designed for group communication and discussion forums. Okay, so it works on channels, or also it allows one-to-one communication by private message as well as chat and data transfer options. So user can start a new chat group or join an already existing group. So examples of these IRCs are popular IRC clients include MIRC for Windows, IRCLE for Mac operating system, IRC2 for Unix OS, etc. Okay, and another type of this chat facility is ICU, and this full form is ICU, and it should be written in short form ICQ. Is an online communication program that enables people to chat, send emails, transfer file to each other. It allows you to create a list of your friends, family, and other contacts. It sends you a notification whenever any of your friends and contacts appear online, and it conducts that ICQ chat. You require to download and install that ICQ software for connecting with your friends or relative. Next type of chat is web based chat. As the name suggests, a web based chat is conducted on a web browser and generally provided by web email providers such as Google or Facebook. So this is about web services or web services, that is chatting. Okay. Next type of web services is video conferencing. As the name suggests, video conferencing uses the videos and audios together or simultaneously. It's a method of communicating by two-way video and audio transmission with the help of telecommunication technologies. So components required for web conferencing is webcam to capture the video signals, microphone to capture the audio signal, headphones or speaker to receive audio output, monitor or projector to receive and display the video output, and software video conferencing software like Microsoft NetMeeting or Zoom, etc., for processing the image and sound. So these are the components that require for video conferencing. So advantages of video conferencing are: it has become easier to conduct corporate meeting between the branches of a company that are suitable, that are situated far away. People can work together and share their ideas. So in this lockdown, people are doing work from home with the help of video conferencing or with the help of this chatting or groups, etc. Okay, so they are playing very crucial role or important role in today's scenario. It is more economic. It is more economic means of communication, as companies can save on travel, hotels, etc. Okay, cost, etc. The meetings can be organized on short notice and can easily participate from distant location. And video conferencing also increases business productivity. People can readily address problems and facilitate corporate decisions within the company. And students present at different locations can attend lectures and training through video conferencing. Okay, it is an excellent way of keeping in touch with family, friends, and staying at distant place. So these are the advantages of video conferencing. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of video conferencing. It is a very reliable and fast communication. When a very reliable and fast communication is needed all the time to conduct video conferencing. Okay, means you should have internet connection, proper internet connection. Even with the fast connection, there might be slight delay between responses that can disturb the nature or flow of the conversation. Major disadvantages that are technical difficulty associated with it, that is software problem, hardware problem, network failure, or weather disturbances, fluctuation, etc. High quality dedicated video conferencing systems are expensive to buy, and people can be in different time zones around the world. So the chances at that some people may have to stay back during the odd hours in the night to attend the meeting, etc. So these are the disadvantages of video conferencing. So this chapter till now we will discuss only these points, and in the next class we will discuss other web services like e-learning, and then e-reservation, banking, and e-shopping, then about the e-governance, the mobile groups, e-groups, and then social networking, etc. So that we will discuss in next video. Thank you so much.